You're listening to The Wells Report, which will return in 1 minute. The Wells Report returns in 30 seconds. North to south, coast to coast, around the world. This is the Wells Report. Good morning, I'm John David Wells. What do we do on this broadcast? We report the news, honestly and fairly. We analyze the news for fact and bias. We point out both. In short, we de-propagandize the mainstream media's news. We do make commentary. That is not news. No, that's just opinion. Yours and mine, and so we debate. News, analysis, commentary, and debate. This is the Wells Report. An horrific shooting last night in Maine. That's what leads our work today. It's time now for the front page, a news digest of what happened since yesterday's broadcast and while we were asleep. At least 16 have been killed, dozens have been injured in a Lewiston, Maine massacre. This being reported by the Sun Journal. At least 16 people were killed, dozens more injured in multiple shootings Wednesday night in what is likely the deadliest shooting in Maine's history. The Department of Public Safety Commissioner Michael Sauchuk refused to confirm the number of deaths in a news conference late last night, but the Associated Press, citing unnamed law enforcement sources, reported 16 deaths. Earlier in the night, Androscoggin County Sheriff Eric Sampson and a Lewiston City Councilman said as many as 22 people had died. Maine State Police are searching for Robert Card. He's 40 years old in connection with the shooting at the Spare Time Recreation Center and the Shemenges Bar and Grill. By Thursday morning, this morning, more than 100 state and federal officers had been participating in the manhunt for Card. Card, who lives in Bowdoin, is a trained firearm instructor who police believe is in the U.S. Army Reserve out of Saco. He recently reported mental health issues, including hearing voices, and made threats to shoot the National Guard base in Saco, according to state police, who said he spent 2 weeks in a mental health facility this summer. They warned the public that Card could be considered armed and dangerous, indeed should be. There will be a press conference from Lewiston authorities in just about a half an hour. We will carry that live here on the Wells Report. Some updates on what has been going on since that story was written. This from ABC News. At least 16 people believed to be dead. That number is in flux. Dozens more have been injured after a bowling alley came under fire in Lewiston, Maine last night. The deadliest shooting of the year, one of the deadliest in recent decades. Riley Dumont said she heard a loud bang, after which her father, a retired cop, corralled them into a corner, put protection in front of them, including tables and a big bench that the kids were hiding behind. I was laying on top of my daughter. My mother was laying on top of me, said Dumont. It felt like it lasted a lifetime. I just remember people sobbing and crying. Another witness at the bowling alley, whose name is Brandon, last name not made available, described hearing a loud pop. Shelter-in-place advisory has been expanded to Bowdoin, Maine. We are expanding the shelter-in-place advisory, school closings to include the town of Bowdoin. Please stay inside your homes while more than 100 investigators, both local and federal, work to locate Robert Card, the person of interest in the Lewiston shootings. Maine State Police said that on a post on social media. Lewiston and Lisbon municipal offices will be closed today. Municipal offices in Lewiston, Lisbon will be closed on Thursday in Lewiston, where the mass shooting occurred. Officials say they would also close the library and cancel all events, including early voting at city buildings. Non-emergency personnel should stay at home tomorrow as well, the city said in a social media post last night. The New York Post reports a little bit on Robert Card. They say he is mentally ill. They say he is a gun expert. About 4 hours after the initial reports of shootings in Lewiston, police identified Robert Card, a 40-year-old firearms instructor with past mental health issues, as a person of interest. This, according to law enforcement sources. Card, believed to be an Army reservist stationed out of Saco, Maine, reportedly heard voices and threatened to shoot up the base, according to law enforcement sources. He was reportedly committed to a mental health facility over the summer, was released after a 2-week stay. On Wednesday night, last night, Card was believed to be driving a white Subaru Outback, which was located 8 miles away in Lisbon, Maine. Internationally now, moving to the Israeli-Hamas war, CNN reports an overnight targeted raid using tanks moved into northern Gaza before withdrawing. This according to the Israeli military. Video published by the Israeli Defense Forces showed tanks and armored vehicles, including a bulldozer, moving on a road near a fence in northern Gaza. The tanks fired at artillery, and some destruction could be seen nearby. Speaking to CNN, IDF spokesperson Peter Lerner said the raid, which he described as large but limited in scope, was, quote, intended to create better terms for ground operations if and when those come to be, unquote. This is only the beginning. In a televised address on Wednesday evening, Benjamin Netanyahu said Israel is raining down hellfire on Hamas. He also claimed Israel has already eliminated thousands of terrorists, and this is only the beginning. He added, at the time, we are preparing for a ground incursion, but said the decision on when that action should be taken would be decided by the Israeli War Cabinet. A humanitarian crisis. Israel has been launching waves of retaliatory strikes following the Hamas attacks. Satellite images reveal destruction in Gaza. The UN said it will soon run out of fuel needed for the aid of operations and will have to decide what help they could and could not provide to civilians. European Union leaders have met. The leaders of 27 European Union members have met in Brussels to discuss the unfolding crisis. Ahead of the summit, Josep Borrell, the EU's foreign policy chief, indicated that the bloc would push for a pause in fighting to allow humanitarian aid into Gaza. While all member states are broadly in agreement that aid needs to be allowed into Gaza as soon as possible, there is hesitation from some to endorse a pause in fighting for fears it would limit Israel's ability to defend itself against terror attacks. Israel, for its part, has given a new figure for the number of hostages being held. Here's what's known at this time. In an updated figure, the Israeli army now says 224 people are believed to be held hostage in Gaza after the October 7th Hamas attacks. The previous estimate given was 222. Those taken were captured when Hamas mounted their surprise cross-border raids. Earlier this month, some taken from homes, others from a music festival. Their families have been pleading for their release. And then China will provide approximately $2.05 million in humanitarian aid to the Gaza Strip, it announced yesterday. According to a statement from the China International Development Cooperation Agency, the country's foreign aid and development organization, the aid will be comprised of food, medicine, other humanitarian emergency aid supplies. It added that it comes on top of $1 million in aid China has already previously provided. Labor news this morning, Ford has reached a tentative agreement with the UAW. This being reported by USA Today. The UAW announced a tentative labor agreement with Ford Motor Company late last night, is now proposing the contract to face a membership vote. UAW President Shawn Fain and UAW Vice President Chuck Browning, who led the negotiations with Ford during the union strike against the Detroit Big Three, posted a 10-minute video online at 8:27 p.m. to make the news official. Quote, "The stand-up strike is working," unquote, said Fain in the video, referring to the union strategy of targeting all three Detroit automakers for strikes simultaneously, which had never been done. By closing down additional plants at Stellantis and GM this week, Ford knew what was coming for them today. If we didn't get a deal, that was checkmate. The tentative agreement includes an 11% wage increase the first year, totals 25% over 4.5 years, plus a $5,000 ratification bonus and cost of living adjustments, according to two sources familiar with the deal, but not authorized to speak publicly. News of the states today out of New York. This being reported by Fox News. Trump attorneys were denied yesterday when they asked for an immediate and direct verdict in the Trump Organization civil trial following testimony from Trump ex-attorney Michael Cohen. Cohen admitted during testimony that the former president did not ask him to inflate his finances on a personal finances statement. The former president and 2024 GOP presidential frontrunner and his ex-attorney found themselves in the same courtroom for a second day in a row amid the civil trial stemming from New York Attorney General Letitia James' years-long investigation into the Trump Organization and the Trump family business. During a second day on the stand, Cohen, Trump's one-time friend, lawyer, and someone who once famously said he'd take a bullet for his client, was asked directly whether Trump had asked him to inflate his finances on personal finance statements. Trump didn't ask you, this is a quote from Clifford Roberts, Trump attorney, Trump did not ask you to inflate the numbers on his personal statement, correct? Unquote. To which Cohen responded, correct. Out of Iowa, a teen used Stop the Bleed training and saved his neighbor. This from USA Today. Pat Kemery fell off her four-wheeler, got trapped under the vehicle, and she thought no one was going to find her. The 81-year-old woman lives on a farm in Blockton, Iowa, about 110 miles southwest of Des Moines. People usually don't travel along that road where the accident happened. She went down a bank, accidentally hit the throttle with her hand, throwing her off the vehicle. The four-wheeler then flipped on top of her. She said she was on her stomach, trapped under the vehicle. Weston Drake, a boy who was moving hay from an adjacent pasture, saw the accident. I remember coming around a corner. I saw the four-wheeler roll over. By the way, Drake is 14 years of age. He checked on her to see if he could lift the four-wheeler without hurting her further, then used the hay forks on his own tractor to lift the vehicle, pinning her to the ground. I just took them, bumped the four-wheeler with them, raised it up enough off of her so she could crawl out from underneath it. Then the teen used Stop the Bleed training to treat a cut on Kemery's foot. The main thing was just staying calm and getting her out of the situation she was in, said Drake. And this out of Texas. Fox News reports that a monster alligator gar was caught in Texas last month. It broke not just one, not just two, but 4 International Game and Fish Association records. Captain Kirk Kirkland served as the guide to Art Weston, who reeled in the 283-pound alligator gar. This happened September 2nd. Kirkland and Weston wrestled with the beast for about 2 hours and 45 minutes until they were finally able to bring the fish aboard. It's extremely rare to catch a fish that size on 6-pound test line. 6-pound test. It's quite a feat, said Captain Kirkland, speaking with Fox News. After weighing the fish, the angler submitted an application to the IGFA in hopes of claiming some records. They expected to take home 2 records. Kirkland confirmed they have now officially set 4 new records in both the state of Texas and in the world. And that is today's front page. And so we are going to be going to Lewiston, Maine here in a matter of moments. There should be a press conference from police authorities, both from Maine, the FBI, and the governor of Maine will also appear. We'll be covering that live as we try to find out a little bit more about this unbelievable shooting, certainly the deadliest in Maine history as it's being reported. And we are looking for Robert Card, who's 40 years old, apparently a member of the Army Reserve. He also spent some time at the National Guard base in Saco. He's a firearms instructor, and he decided to shoot up a bowling alley, according to all the reports, a bowling alley and a bar last night. He was driving a white Subaru. He left that near a body of water and has essentially disappeared. He certainly has the training to be able to evade police and certainly survive on his own for any amount of time. There was a brief description of a black pickup truck that may have been used in this particular crime. We'll find out more about that as the press conference will take place just after the bottom of the hour. That would be 9:30 here, and we will cover it right here on the Wells Report, we promise. Also, by the way, there is some news regarding these Hamas terrorists. Many people noted that there were very, shall we say, tactically proficient moves that were used by the Hamas terrorists in their cross-border invasion of Israel and the subsequent murders there. Just exactly where did they get that training? There is more information on that, and we will have that for you. Our telephone number, 817-379-2172. 817-379-2172. Our chat room is going. Want to say good morning to Eddie Jones. Eddie, thanks very much for showing us your name today on the chat room. We'll be back with more coming up in just a couple of moments. This is The Wells Report.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
This is the Wells Report. My name is John David Wells. If you are just joining us, an horrific shooting killing upwards of 22 people, although that death toll is up in the air. There is some conflicting reporting on that. We'll have a press conference coming up in just a little bit. We will be bringing that to you. Lewiston Police Forces, Maine Police Forces, the governor of Maine, federal authorities will all be at that press conference. We will cover it live. All the information you need on the Lewiston shooting is coming your way. In the meantime, There is information about where the Hamas fighters that crossed the border from the Gaza Strip into Israel and created mayhem, murder, death on a repugnant scale. We finally have gotten some information, at least there is information being reported, as to where they got their training. This being reported from the Wall Street Journal. In the weeks leading up to the Hamas October 7th attacks on Israel, hundreds of Palestinian Islamist militant groups, Hamas, fighters received specialized combat training in Iran. This, according to people familiar with the intelligence related to the assault. Roughly 500 militants from Hamas and an allied group, the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, participated in the exercises in September, which were led by officers of the Quds Force, the foreign operations arm of the Iran Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. This, according to those same sources. Senior Palestinian officials, Iranian Brigadier General Ismail Qaani, the head of the Quds Force, also attended that training. More than 1,400 people, mostly civilians, were killed October 7th by Hamas fighters who poured across the border from the Gaza Strip. Scores of others were kidnapped, then taken back to Gaza, where they are currently being held hostage. Hamas attackers used aerial drones to disable Israeli observation posts and high-tech surveillance equipment. Some used paragliders to fly into Israel. Others rode on motorcycles commonly used by the Iranian paramilitary groups, but not by Hamas until October 7th. U.S. officials said Iran has regularly trained militants in Iran and elsewhere, but they have no indications of a mass training right before the attack. U.S. officials and the people familiar with the intelligence said they had no information to suggest Iran conducted training specifically to prepare for the events of October 7th. On Wednesday, Israel's military offered some of the most blunt comments yet on Iran's role in aiding Hamas and other militant groups. Quote, before the war, Iran directly assisted Hamas with money, training, and weapons, also technological know-how. This, according to Rear Admiral Daniel Hagari, the military chief spokesman. Even now, Iran is helping Hamas with intelligence. Since the Hamas attack, Israel has waged a major air campaign, striking thousands of targets in Gaza, and has been preparing for a ground campaign. The country said its aim was to dismantle Hamas and end its rule in Gaza. One of the things that I am watching and paying very close attention to is how the United States is responding to these accusations that Iran is indeed involved in this Israeli attack through their proxy armies of Hamas and Hezbollah, certainly. But now we've got information regarding training. What's also interesting on this is that U.S. officials say they had no information that any of this was taking place. Again, where is U.S. intelligence? What are they doing aside from playing politics? You know, when you're trying to put a former president of the United States in jail, boy, it sure takes a lot of time away from the things you're supposed to be doing, doesn't it? Now, I don't know that that's the case. I'm relatively sure that America's clandestine service is going along fine. They're doing their job. I'm also relatively sure that it's quite possible that they did have information that Hamas terrorists were indeed being trained in Iran and indeed had made linkages to the October 7th attack. But there's this smell of politics in this. Joe Biden, President Obama before him, said that they wanted to do deals with Iran. Huge amounts of cash, huge amounts of opportunity for them to continue their nuclear weapons research. All kinds of things given by the Obama-Biden administration. And now, for whatever reason, our intelligence agencies just can't see what's going on in that country, Iran. That's what I see. What do you see? This is the Wells Report. Back with more in just a moment.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost. How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right, for about $50 a month, you'll get lightning fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back, but you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now.
Call 866-245-6155. That's 866-245-6155. Again, 866-245-6155. 866-245-6155.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to Low Cost Airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
This is the Wells Report. Good morning. My name is John David Wells. Telephone number is 817-379-2172. We are waiting for an official police press conference on the Maine shootings and the manhunt for Robert Card, 40 years of age, the accused person of interest in this particular case. We will be joining Fox News coverage in just a couple of moments. As soon as all of the authorities step up to the dais that's been set in what looks like the city of Lewiston's Town Council chamber. We'll be bringing that to you coming up in just a couple of moments. So at least 22 people killed and 30 more injured following a shooting in Lewiston, Maine, which took place at 2 locations last night. Law enforcement is telling Fox News. Maine Public Safety Commissioner Mike Sauschuk said during a Wednesday night press conference that he would not comment on the number of victims in the shooting, stating the situation was very fluid. The Lewiston Police Department identified Robert R. Card of Bowdoin, Maine, as a person of interest in a Friday night Facebook post that said this: law enforcement is attempting to locate Robert Card, who was born April 4th, 1983, as a person of interest regarding the mass shooting at the Shemenges Bar and Spare Time Recreation Center this evening. Card should be considered armed and dangerous. Please contact law enforcement if you are aware of his whereabouts. A Marine law enforcement bulletin shared with Fox News states that Card is, quote, a trained firearms instructor believed to be in the Army Reserve stationed out of Saco, Maine. An Army spokesman confirmed to Fox News this morning that Card had been in the Army Reserve for over 2 decades and received multiple awards for his service. Sergeant First Class Robert R. Card II is a petroleum supply specialist in the Army Reserve, enlisting in December of 2002. He has no combat deployments, according to Army spokesperson Bryce Doobie. His awards include the Army Achievement Medal, the Army Reserve Component Achievement Medal with 2 awards, Humanitarian Service Medal, National Defense Service Medal, and the Army Service Ribbon. The main bulletin also states that Card recently reported mental health issues, including hearing voices, and threats to shoot up the National Guard base in Saco, Maine, were heard. No details about his treatment or condition were immediately provided. According to the document, Card was committed to a mental health facility for 2 weeks over the summer before he was indeed released. Fox News' David Spunt has been reporting, citing a senior law enforcement source, authorities are aware that Card may have a police scanner and could be actively listening to some of their movements. He should be considered armed and dangerous, this according to the Law Enforcement Bulletin. Card studied engineering at the University of Maine from 2001 to 2004, according to a school representative. His white Subaru Outlook was found near the Lisbon Boat Dock on Frost Hill Avenue, near Route 196. Central Maine Medical Center said in a statement they are reacting to a mass mass shooter event, but could not share the number of victims. Auburn Mayor Jason Levesque confirmed on NBC's Today Show that the bowling center was hosting a youth league at the time of the shooting. Pictures shared by the Androscoggin County Sheriff's Office show the suspect wearing a brown sweatshirt and holding a rifle. Residents of Lewiston were told to shelter in place and to stay inside your home with the doors locked. This according to Maine State Police. They said later that the shelter-in-place advisory and school closures expanded into the town of Bowdoin. On a post on X, FBI Boston said they were coordinating with local and state law enforcement. They said this: the Boston Division, the FBI Boston Division, continues to coordinate with local, state, and federal law enforcement partners in Maine. We stand ready to assist with any available resources they need, including evidence response, investigative and tactical support, as well as victim assistance, FBI Boston wrote in an X post. Quote, we continue to urge the public to remain vigilant and report any and all suspicious activity and or individuals to law enforcement immediately. As this situation is very fluid, we have no further comment at this time. We refer you to the Maine State Police. And by the way, that is exactly what we are doing. We are waiting for the Maine State Police and other police officials to appear from Lewiston, Maine in moments. A press conference was scheduled for 9:30. It's only a couple of minutes past that at this particular moment, and we are waiting for more information directly from the source. We'll very likely hear of a more official death toll, as sad as that will be, and also more information on the wounded and the nature of their injuries, I'm hoping, so that we can find out just exactly where things stand. I believe that this Robert Card person prepared this pretty strenuously because he hasn't been caught immediately. Now, whether he is still alive or not, no one really knows. But there were informations, dribs and drabs, more rumor than fact, obviously, that the white Subaru Outback was switched for a black pickup truck. And indeed, if he had taken that, he parked it at a good place. There are two ways of making a transport out of that area from where he parked his Subaru Outback. One, the waterway. Don't know whether it's connected to any form of say river or any of that, but you can say that there was a boat dock there, and he may have indeed stashed a vehicle on the other side of the lake, used some kind of conveyance to get him across the lake and into that. Also, there is a major highway there, Highway 196. It may have been that he took this pickup truck, if indeed that's true, and decided to move either direction on that highway. And if indeed he does have a police scanner, he probably knows not just the frequencies that would be in play, where he was in the various cities that he would encounter, Lewiston and Lisbon, for example, but also other areas on his way out of, if he's trying to do an exfil, that's to leave the area, that he might be indeed monitoring the police. Also, by the way, a sergeant first class in the Army Reserve has a great deal of tactical training. One of the things about Army NCOs is that that they remain tactically proficient. And that is something that you spend a lot of time doing. And you do an awful lot of training both on your own and in an organized way to be able to maintain your proficiency. Obviously, this guy knew exactly what he was doing. I was looking at his weaponry, obviously a very good rifle, and obviously an optic that was, as we have seen with the death toll and wounding toll, even the unofficial ones at this particular moment, he was quite adept at using. He was holding the rifle extremely well. He was moving extremely well, according to reports. I have not seen actual video of him making any moves around in the bowling alley or in the bar. But what we can say is that this guy certainly has the wherewithal to move very expertly through a horrific crime like this. And so we are continuing to wait for the official presser that is scheduled for at this particular moment, and we will see just exactly what they have to say coming up in just a moment. The New York Post reports this story as follows. A mentally ill gun expert Robert Card on the loose after killing at least 22 in a hail of bullets at two businesses. This is their copy. A mass shooter went on an horrific rampage in Maine last night, murdering at least 22 people at a bar in a bowling alley and sparking a massive manhunt, according to law enforcement sources and reports. More than 50 people were wounded in the two separate events in Lewiston. That's the state of Maine's second largest city, which was put under a shelter-in-place order, as we have reported, following the bloodshed that began some time just before 7 p.m., according to police sources. I still feel like this whole thing is a nightmare, said Kathy Level. She is the co-owner of the Shemenji's Bar and Grill restaurant, where at least 14 were shot. She told the Sun Journal, which was the local paper. About 4 hours after initial reports of the shooting in Lewiston, police identified Robert Card, 40 years old, a firearms instructor with past mental health issues, as a person of interest. He is in the Army Reserve, stationed out of Saco, Maine. He reportedly recently heard voices and threatened to shoot up the base, according to law enforcement officials. He was reportedly committed to a mental health facility. He spent a couple of weeks there over the summer. On Wednesday night, Card was believed to be driving a white Subaru Outback, which was located 8 miles away from Lisbon, Maine. Lewiston police warned that Card should be considered armed and dangerous. Residents in Lisbon were also ordered to shelter in place. Maine State Police advised local residents and businesses to lock their doors and shelter in place. Please stay off the streets. Allow law enforcement to defuse the situation. The state agency warned residents, if you see any suspicious activity or individuals, please call 911. There was also a police officer that spent a little bit of time talking with police. It was kind of an ad hoc, extemporaneous kind of conversation. And he was talking about asking them to make sure that they stayed in one place, because what he didn't want to see happen was that people in Maine perhaps identify one of the reporters wandering around in a yard as perhaps someone that required a defensive move to be taken about. That guy was really, really good. I wish I had the wits to write his name down, but unfortunately I was not able to do that in time to be able to tell you what his name is, but something tells me we're going to be hearing a lot more from him in the coming days. The guy is a real professional. He's a police pro. And we're going to be hearing some from some of those other police professionals here in just a couple of moments. Indeed, they are now filling what looks like the city council chamber of Lewiston, Maine. There is a dais set up there. The governor of Maine is expected to join this particular press conference. She will have commentary and so on, and we will be looking at that with interest to see just exactly what she wants to do with regards to the fact that there are National Guard assets that she could use. We have heard that indeed there have been some National Guard units that have already deployed to this particular area for search activity, etc. That would be a very good move insofar as a U.S. Army Reserve Sergeant First Class, which is pretty far up on the pecking order, that he would certainly have skills and understandings about just exactly how to avoid any kind of police interaction from a standpoint of being captured. Now, we have no idea what's going on with this person. Obviously, this would be a different story if we did. But many experts, including some of the talking head experts that you'll be seeing on various channels, we've watched all of them, they say that usually under circumstances like this, the shooter ends up taking his own life. I don't know whether that has happened or not. It is always something that I fight with. On one hand, it drives me crazy when people do these kinds of shootings and then take themselves out. Because obviously that leaves so many questions unanswered. Not that you even want the answers to the question. So on one hand, taking himself out would be annoying to me on a basic level. I can't really express it from an intellectual level because it's not something that is intellectual. It is just basically a kind of a more basic instinct about what I would not like to see happen. On the other hand, if he does take his own life, that does save an awful lot of time, and it also saves an awful lot of resources that can be better used to perhaps prevent another one of these. The other thing is, of course, that if he is indeed captured, just exactly what are we going to find? Are we going to find somebody who hides behind the idea, perhaps, that he is insane? He is innocent by reason of insanity. Well, I have issues with that as well, insofar as of the still pictures that I have seen, I see a guy operating maybe in a sociopathic way, and arguably sociopathic tendencies, especially if taken to an extreme, does constitute insanity. But this guy knows exactly what he's doing. And whether some defense attorney can say, well, he didn't understand the implications, I find that something that would not be believable to me. Say, for example, if I was on a jury listening to this case. Also, you can't really avoid the very annoying problems of politicians stepping to the fray and grinding the axe about gun control. We'll be talking more about that coming up in just a couple of moments. It looks as though the officials are getting ready to approach the dais, and it appears that they are about to begin speaking here. Like I said before, we want to join Fox News coverage, and that's exactly what we'll do here on the Wells Report for this Thursday morning.
Y'all in? Thank you. Thank you for being here. As you may notice, my voice is a little hoarse after working through the night. As you all know, last night, locals, county, state, and federal law enforcement officers from around the state of Maine responded to reports of an active shooter at several locations in Lewiston, including Spare Time Recreation.
This, by the way, is Janet Mills. She is the governor of Maine.
These law enforcement officers, in the face of danger, responded swiftly, selflessly, and with great bravery. Bravery that they continue to demonstrate today as they search tirelessly for a person of interest in connection with last night's events. On behalf of all Maine people, I express my deep gratitude for your response and for your continued service. I also do so for Maine's hospitals and other medical emergency responders. I'm profoundly saddened to stand before you today to report that 18 people lost their lives and 13 people injured in last night's attacks. In memory of those we lost and in honor of those who were injured, President Biden and I have ordered all U.S. flags and state of Maine flags to be lowered to half-staff immediately for the next 5 days. Maine State Police have issued a shelter-in-place order for Lewiston, Lisbon, and Bowdoin as the manhunt for that person of interest, Robert Card of Bowdoin, continues. I will let law enforcement speak to the ongoing manhunt and to their investigation, but Mr. Card is considered armed and dangerous, and police advise that Maine people should not approach him under any circumstances. I continue to strongly urge Maine people to follow the direction of state and local law enforcement amid this ever-changing situation. Please, if you see anything suspicious, please call 911. There are still many things we don't yet know about these attacks, but the full weight of my administration is behind law enforcement's efforts to capture the person of interest, Robert Card, to hold whoever is responsible for this atrocity accountable under the full force of state and federal law, and to seek full justice for the victims and their families. We cannot and we will not rest in this endeavor. My administration is coordinating closely with local, regional, and federal officials to respond to this shooting. I have spoken twice with President Biden. I've spoken with Vice President Harris, Secretary of Homeland Security Mayorkas, and Secretary of Health and Human Services Becerra, all of whom have called me last night to express the Biden administration's full and unwavering support and to offer any and all help that we, the people of Maine, might require. The governors of our neighboring New England states and of other states have contacted me to offer aid, and I am sincerely grateful for their friendship and support. We've been in touch with every member of the Maine congressional delegation, all of whom have offered their full support, for which I am also grateful. I also spoke with Mayor Carl Schelin and Auburn Mayor, Jason Levesque last night to reiterate that we are standing by them and that we are ready to provide any help people in these communities need and to deploy all available state resources, including grief counselors and other mental health services. We need to help our communities heal. If you or a person you love needs someone to talk to during this difficult time, please call or text 988 for free and confidential counseling. 988. Look, Lewiston is a special place. It's a close-knit community with a long history of hard work, of persistence, of faith, of opening its big heart to people everywhere. Lewiston is where I worked for years. It's where I met and married my husband and where our girls went to school. I love this place just as I love our whole state with my entire heart. I'm so deeply saddened, as is every one of the 1.3 million people of this beautiful state. This city did not deserve this terrible assault on its citizens, on its peace of mind, on its sense of security. No city does, no state, no people. No words can truly or fully measure the grief of Maine people today. Our small state of just 1.3 million people has long been known as one of the safest states in the nation. This attack strikes at the very heart of who we are and the values we hold dear for this precious place we call home. All Maine people are sharing in the sorrow of the families who lost loved ones last night. Loved ones, normal people who were killed or injured while unwinding from a day of work or while spending time with their family and friends, socializing. So on behalf of the 1.3 million people of the whole state of Maine, I hold these families and this city in my heart today. I know that the people of Lewiston are enduring immeasurable pain. I wish I could take that pain off your hearts, off your shoulders, but I promise you this, we will all help you carry that grief. I ask Maine people to join me in offering our comfort to the families and friends who have lost someone, and in offering our prayers for swift recovery for those who are healing in Maine's hospitals today. This is a dark day for Maine. I know it's hard for us to think about healing when our hearts are broken. But I want every person in Maine to know that we will heal together. We are strong, we are resilient, we are a very caring people. In the days and weeks ahead, we will need to lean on those qualities more than ever before. As we move forward, struggling as we may, let us wrap our arms around one another and offer comfort and solace and love. I know the Maine State Police will continue to release information to the public as we confirm it, and information about any steps that the public might take to support the people of Lewiston at this time. May God bless the people of Lewiston and bless the memories of those we've lost. Thank you. I'm going to turn it over to Commissioner Sawchuk.
Thank you very much, Governor. We certainly appreciate your support. The City of Lewiston does, the state of Maine, and certainly our first responders. We feel that love every day. And thank you very much for that. I would also say that we want to say thank you to really a large number of other elected officials across our state, whether that's the federal delegation, local elected officials, and many others that are part of organizations or law enforcement agencies that truly wanted to join us today at this particular press event. And wanted to speak on behalf of their communities. And as the governor had mentioned, and everybody else will reiterate, our reality for today is that this suspect is still at large. And we want to provide community support for the victims, for the families, and the communities across the state. But we also have an incredibly strong laser-like focus on bringing this suspect into custody and ultimately to justice. So because of that mission for this particular event and today's activities, we're keeping the list of speakers and the agenda pretty tight. And that will include next up at the podium would be Chief Dave St. Pierre from the city of Lewiston. And some other members of his command staff are present. What I will say to the city of Lewiston, and you know this because you feel it every day, but you're lucky to have a chief like Chief St. Pierre and his entire law enforcement agency. From every level, those officers put their heart and their soul on the line on behalf of their community last night and into today. And they're doing it for the right reasons. They do it because they care. So the city of Lewiston and truly our co-responder family across the state of Maine is lucky to have Dave and his team in the mix with us. And we're also going to hear from Colonel William Ross from the Maine State Police. And Bill will highlight some of the timeline things that you're probably concerned about and certainly interested in from a story perspective. So the Colonel will come up and speak to that. And we'll also have Jody Cohen. And Jody is the special agent in charge for the FBI out of the Boston field office. And Jody will highlight some of those federal partnerships and some of the things that our federal partners are bringing to the table, bringing to bear to help us with this investigation. We also have a bunch of people here. Once you start naming people, you're going to have a problem because you're going to forget somebody or screw something up. But I would also tell you that a couple of our other federal partners are here. Kevin Neal, he was the U.S. Marshal for the District of Maine. We also have James Ferguson, and Jim is the special agent in charge from the ATF for the Boston Field Division. They are heavily invested with staff along with the FBI, and we can't thank them enough for all that they're doing on behalf of our state. I would also tell you that we are going to close with a brief Q&A, and we're going to try to get some of those questions out there. We appreciate your time, your patience, your professionalism, your partnership at getting this information out. I would think that those questions are going to be brief because, again, we do have a suspect at large, and while you can help us with that, we also need to get back to our teams to push forward on that. So with that in mind, I will be back up to the podium to kind of steer that a little bit. But for starters, I would like Chief St. Pierre to join us.
Thank you. Thank you, Director Sawchuk, and welcome media partners, and thank you, Governor Mills, for those kind words. I'm going to keep this short. What I would like the very most is to express our deepest sympathies to the families and friends of the victims of this heinous crime. This is truly a tragedy that goes beyond comprehension. I'm confident in our community, that our community has and will continue to come together throughout this endeavor to bring this to a successful conclusion. Although difficult, I do ask the public to continue to be mindful of their own personal safety and also that they be patient with the process as much as possible. There is extensive work and attention to detail that goes into such a large-scale investigation. I'm confident in the expertise and professionalism of our investigators and all law enforcement officials that are currently involved. This is an all-hands-on-deck approach. We have a great deal of collaboration and resources that have been made available to us. There are far too many to name individually, but I think Director Sawchuk named quite a few appropriately. There are far too many, as I've stated, but they are all appreciated more than you know. I want to thank all of our brave men and women of the Lewiston Police Department, Fire Department staff, medical personnel, first responders of any kind that came from far and wide and have come together and continue to work tirelessly in bringing the situation to an end. We hope to locate and hold the person accountable. I think you'll hear next from the state police, who is taking the lead in this investigation. Although that we are working hand in hand with them, I think Colonel Ross will be able to fill you in on a little bit more.
Thank you, Chief. First and foremost, this is an ongoing homicide investigation and search for the person that is responsible for it. We're in the early stages of this investigation, and I just want to let you know we will have updates. We'll be putting some type of a schedule out later on. But again, early stages of a homicide investigation, we want to be careful that we're doing things correctly. We don't want to get ahead of ourselves. I'm going to give you a bit of a timeline here to kind of fill in some of the blanks and give you some of the facts as we know them right now. A lot of this information will then be transferred to the Attorney General's office, as they will be the lead prosecutor, again, in any homicide investigation. Last night, October 25th at approximately 6:56 p.m., the Auburn Communications Center received a 911 call of a male shooting in Just in Time, or the Spare Time Recreation Center in the town of Lewiston, located at 24 Mollison Way in Lewiston. Shortly after that, at about 7:08 p.m., the Communications Center received multiple 911 calls about an active shooter inside of a Smenji's Billiards at 553 Lincoln Street in the town of Lewiston. A large law enforcement response from multiple surrounding agencies assisted the Lewiston Police Department in trying to identify who this individual was and what was happening. As you can imagine, this was a very fast-paced, fast-moving, very fluid scene, very dangerous scene that these guys and girls were going into. 18 people are now deceased at this time. The victims at the Just in Time establishment 7 people are deceased there, 1 female and 6 males, all from an apparent gunshot wound. Victims at the Schmegli's Billiards, 8 are deceased. 7 males inside the establishment, 1 male outside of the establishment. Again, also apparent gunshot wounds. Multiple people were transferred to area hospitals, Central Maine Medical Center, St. Mary's, and Maine Medical Center. 3 people that were transferred to those hospitals are deceased, for a total of 18 people deceased at this time. The investigation into the person responsible for this identified a vehicle located at the Przebscott boat landing in Lisbon. That person, through the registration of that vehicle, was identified, as been stated earlier, as a Robert Card, born in 1983. Several of the deceased have been identified, and their families, next of kin, have been notified. Approximately 8 people at this point have been identified. 10 people, 10 of these victims, still need to be identified at this time. Currently, there is an arrest warrant for 8 counts of murder for Mr. Card. And the reason it's 8 counts because 10 people have not yet been identified. As those people are identified, the counts will probably go to the total of 18. He should be considered armed and dangerous. Based on our investigation, we believe this is someone that should not be approached. This is someone that should be, if you come into any contact with this individual or someone that you think looks like this individual, you were to call 911, and I'll provide some tip line numbers at the conclusion of my briefing. The Lewiston Police Department, federal, state, county, and other local municipalities are involved in a coordinated search at this moment for this individual. So there's the ongoing investigation and there's a search to apprehend this person. Both happen simultaneously. I can't stress this enough. This is an ongoing investigation in the early stages. More information will come out in conjunction with the Attorney General's office as the lead prosecutor. We can't share all of our information right now, and I'm sure you understand that. I'm going to give out 2 numbers that go to a tip line. 911 is also appropriate for this, but if anyone can call these 2 numbers, this would go to the State Police tip line. Area code 207-213-9526, 207-509-9002. And we'll be sending something out later that has that information in it if you weren't able to grab that now. Again, this is a very fluid situation. We have a lot of resources, as Chief St. Pierre had mentioned earlier, that are on the ground in a coordinated effort to apprehend this individual. We've notified the Department of Education, and they have determined what they're going to do with the schools. A lot of schools, area schools, were shut down today based on our conversation with them. Again, as more information comes in, we'll be providing it to you. Thank you for your time. This is a very difficult time for, I think, the community of Lewiston, difficult time for obviously the victims' families. It's a tough time for law enforcement. It was a rough night last night, but we're committed to bringing whoever's responsible this to justice. And again, we are currently looking for Mr. Card right now, someone that we'd like to apprehend. Thank you.
Thank you, Colonel. And FBI Special Agent in Charge, Cohen, if you could join me, please.
Thank you. My name is Jody Cohen. I'm the Special Agent in Charge of FBI Boston Division, which covers the state of Maine. Our hearts go out to everyone who is impacted as a result of this senseless violence. The FBI is working hand in hand with our law enforcement partners. Our evidence response team is here processing these very extensive scenes. We are providing investigative and tactical support, as well as our victim specialists are working with those affected by this tragedy. As this very active investigation continues to unfold, we're asking the public to stay vigilant and come forward with any information that you might have that you feel is helpful to our investigators. My pledge is that the FBI will carry out this investigative case with rigor. We will work day and night alongside our law enforcement partners to get the answers to the questions this community deserves. We thank the public for your continued cooperation and patience as we continue to work this very active investigation. Thank you.
Appreciate that. And I would say that the reality here from a resource standpoint is that when we've asked for anything, the answer's been yes, period. Tactical teams, evidence response teams, full-blown investigative units, detective units that have come from multiple states, whether it's the commissioners from Vermont and New Hampshire reaching out to me directly, Massachusetts saying, what do you need, Mike? What can we do for the state of Maine? So we are now prepared to try to take a few questions. And keep in mind, again, that we may not be able to answer as in-depth as you would like, and we don't plan on taking a great deal of questions. I think follow-up press events will allow for that. Sir?
So no one has really talked about the weapon that was used here, the AR style, so hope someone can talk about that. But the other thing here is there are reports that this individual had mental health issues, that he made threats to shoot up the National Guard. So clearly there were some signs here that he was on someone's radar. The question becomes, why was he in possession of this weapon? And certainly, why wasn't he stopped sooner?
Yeah, I think those are all valid questions, and certainly questions that we are looking into now, but not questions that we can answer today. Considering that this occurred last night, there's still an active search for the suspect in question. So I can appreciate those questions, but not something we're going to be able to answer right now.
Is it something that you're investigating and looking at?
It is certainly one of those things that we want to follow up on, all aspects of that. Go ahead, right here. Yes.
Can you give us a sense of the ages of who has died, how many are under 18 and how many are over 18?
I'm not sure we have that information with us today. We wanted to break it down by gender because that's something we had readily available. We did not break this down into age ranges at all.
Sir, what can you tell us? What can you tell us about the background of the suspect in this case, or I should say the person of interest, because I noticed the language is very clear. You're saying person of interest, not suspect. So why use that terminology, and what can you tell us about his background?
Yeah, I think we used person of interest last night for half of the room that was here for that press event. As the Colonel had mentioned, there is now arrest warrants for murder for this particular individual, Mr. Card. So he is viewed as a suspect, and there is a full court press by all of our partners to bring him into custody. What was the second piece of that question?
What can you tell us about his background? Someone had asked a second ago about the idea that he had voiced concerns about his own mental health, right? Had been committed, according to language in a police bulletin, to a mental health facility for weeks. How could someone that fits that profile still be in possession of semi-automatic weapons?
Well, I do think that the statutes around firearms and the possession of those are pretty complex. I know that we will be reviewing that information as we move forward, but that's not an answer that we're prepared to give today, because that leads to motive. You're talking about behavioral health issues and how that impacts this situation. I would expect you'll hear back from us on that in the future. Right here, sir.
Yeah, I've got a question about, we've seen helicopters as far north as on there. Can you tell us anything about what's leading you that far north of the sea margin?
Yeah, sure. So we have law enforcement assets that are deployed over a number of communities doing follow-ups on a number of different things. So as you can imagine, there's a great deal of search warrants that we're following up on. We do have partners, that helicopters from the New Hampshire State Police. That copter was here last night to assist us as well. So whether we have tactical elements out or we're searching an area, some of those air assets would be very, very valuable for us. So that's what they're doing. We're not going to speak to what brings us to a specific community one way or the other. Yes, ma'am. Right here.
Identifying the unidentified victims, what are people encouraged to do? Is there DNA being tested for family members who may have missing loved ones? Like, what is that approach right now?
Yeah, so we did have a family a reunification center opened last night. We do have behavioral health liaisons that are fully engaged to work with families and work with loved ones and work with victims, for that matter, that may be in the hospital and seeking treatment. So those things are actively occurring. We are dealing with each one of those situations separately. So do we need DNA on that? Are we just waiting to find a loved one, some kind of family member that we can make a notification? I think that varies across the board. I'm going to take 2 more questions. I'm going to take 2 more. Right here.
Yes, so is there some sort of triggering event? Is that something that you're investigating?
I think we're always concerned around motive. That you say triggering event, that's a motive for us. Again, that's not something we're prepared to discuss today, but I do appreciate the question. It's clearly something that's important. One additional follow-up from you.
Can you help us understand why these locations, why this bar, why these bowling alley? What's looking for someone? What's looking for something?
I think that does speak to motive, so I appreciate the follow-up, but not something we're going to be prepared to answer today. I'm going to have one more question. Right here, sir. Right here.
Can you say, is card, first off, to clarify, were the arrest warrants issued today? And can you say if card is still in the safe or even still not?
Well, we're actively searching for him. If I knew the answers to those questions, and this would be a different press conference, I would assume. So we don't know his location, and I'll leave it at that. And we are working with the Attorney General's office reference to those murder homicides. So with that in mind, we're done taking questions for now. So we are going to actually take off at this point. Thank you very much for being here. I appreciate that.
Thank you, everybody.
All right. So what you've seen there is a very good press conference being held by the Department of Public Safety. And indeed, they pretty much answered all the questions. Things have changed. There are now 18 official dead, 13 wounded. No information as to what the conditions of the wounded happen to be. All we can say is that this is a serious tragedy that many of the people of Lewiston, Maine, certainly are going to be recoiling from for quite some time. And we certainly do find ourselves in a position where we are extremely saddened for the people that are having to deal with this amazing tragedy, and it's just horrible. It simply is terrible. This is the Wells Report. My name is John David Wells. We want to thank Fox News for allowing us to dip into their coverage of that press conference. Very, very nice of them. And as we have said, we now have more information to deal with regards to this. This man is still on the run. He is still out there. He is still uncaptured, and there was no information regarding that at all. There was a question about the weaponry being used. That was not answered, and that is not typically something that you would get an answer of. There are pictures out there. Obviously, it's an AR-15 type rifle with some very sophisticated scopes on top of it, or sighting devices, which would make a lot of sense when you're talking about an Army Reserve Sergeant First Class who is certainly adept at all of that, including the fact that he is a firearms instructor. So this is a serious man who has serious issues. Apparently, there are some things that they wouldn't discuss regarding, his personal mental illness that currently manifested itself in a 2-week stay at a mental institution earlier this summer. So once again, they are very cautious with the information that they are giving out. They did not discuss any information about travel or any of that. And all we can say is that this is clearly a situation where a very dangerous man is at large somewhere, perhaps in the state of Maine, or could have perhaps made it out of the borders of that state into neighboring states. We will see. We will see as more of this investigation continues. The Wells Report in progress. Once again, thanks very much for being with us here today. We wanted to make sure that you understood that we are covering breaking news. It's part of what we do, but we do have other news, and it has to do with Israel, and we will certainly be covering a lot of that in just a little bit as well. So by all means, do keep in mind that we are paying pretty close attention to what's happening here, and we will continue doing so for the next little bit. Let me see if I can figure out how to do something here. You may notice a certain different look involved in the way we are currently being presented on on our telecast here. And the reason that is happening is because, for whatever reason, we found ourselves in a position where where the formatics of our page changed courtesy of Restream, and we really don't know exactly what all that is about. All we can say is that we do have this rather interesting circumstance going on, and we are paying very close attention to it, and we're going to try to see what we can do about remedying it when we get a moment. The Wells Report in progress. Thanks very much again for joining us. We are going to be back here in just a couple of moments as we continue on this broadcast to bring you the news and analysis and commentary and debate. The Wells Report in progress. Again, we'll be back with more coming up in just a moment for this Thursday, October 26th.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
This is the Wells Report. My name is John David Wells. Telephone number 817-379-2172. 817-379-2172. We are bringing you the news and the issues of the day, and certainly on most of the top-of-mind interests revolve around Lewiston, Maine, as the deadliest shooting in Maine history, mass shooting, has occurred last night. Kevin Card is being chased down. Where is he now? We don't know. We don't have any idea. 18 people have lost their lives. 13 people have been wounded. We don't know the conditions of the wounded at this particular moment. That brings you up to date on everything that we know. It is truly sad and truly awful. Let's see. So we got that update. Authorities say that the person of interest is now a full-on suspect. He has had charges preferred against him, which makes him a suspect in this. Authorities holding a press conference you just saw here on the Wells Report after a mass shooting in Lewiston, Maine that left 18 people dead and 13 wounded. Maine Governor Janet Mills described the community as heartbroken. Senior law enforcement officials confirmed 8 arrest warrants were out there for 40-year-old Robert Card, who was initially identified last night as a person of interest and is now considered a suspect. This, by the way, is coming to us from Fox News, their live updates. Maine Public Safety Commissioner Mike Sauschuk said that there were only 8 arrest warrants because only 8 victims have been identified. He said additional victims are to be identified and the number of arrest warrants will increase. The law enforcement officials also gave an overview of the chaotic night and broke down the crime scenes. Card has started his alleged rampage at Just-in-Time Recreation, a bowling alley, more commonly referred to as Spare Time Recreation, just before he traveled 4 miles to the nearby Shemenji's Bar. At a press conference, police said that 7 victims were found dead in the bowling alley, including 1 female and 6 males. They did not provide the ages of the victims or clarify how many were adults or juveniles. It was a youth bowling night at the bowling center. Police said 8 victims were found dead at the billiards bar, which includes victims inside and outside the restaurant. 7 male victims were found inside, 1 found outside. 3 of the victims were injured and transferred to hospitals. They have since died, bringing the current death total to 18. President Joe Biden ordered all flags at government posts to be flown at half-staff following the mass shooting. 18 people died. A presidential proclamation shared by the White House reads as follows: as a mark of respect for the victims of the senseless acts of violence perpetrated on October 25th, 2023, in Lewiston, Maine, by the authority vested in me as President of the United States, by the Constitution and laws of the United States of America, I hereby order that the flag of the United States shall be flown at half-staff at the White House and upon all public buildings and grounds, at all military posts and naval stations, and on all naval vessels of the federal government in the District of Columbia and throughout the United States and its territories and possessions until sunset, October 30th, 2023. I also direct the flag will be flown at half-staff for the same length of time at all United States embassies, legations, consular offices, other facilities abroad, including military facilities and naval vessels and stations. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer also ordered flags at the Capitol to be flown at half-staff. I've ordered the flags at the U.S. Capitol to half-staff as we remember those we lost to the senseless mass shooting in Maine, to those who are injured, their families, and the people of Maine. He added we must do, and then he played politics, we must do everything we can to stop the epidemic of gun violence in our country. Maine authorities have not yet made arrests in connection with the mass shootings, but have identified Robert Card as a person of interest. He is now a suspect. Hundreds of law enforcement officials are working to find him. And so, there we have it. I, as you might imagine, and am incredibly disappointed with the way all of this is coming down. It does drive me. It makes me incredibly angry, in fact, that we have this issue, and we will certainly be talking more about that as we continue here on the Wells Report. I want to thank you again for being a part of our broadcast, and we shall return coming up in just a couple of moments as we keep things rolling for this, the 26th day of October, year of our Lord 2023. Back with more in just a moment.
For your home for less than $1 a day. Nobody wants to get installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. To tell you according to the facts, home security won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost. How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right, for about $50 a month, you'll get lightning fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back, but you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now.
Call 866-245-6155. That's 866-245-6155. Again, 866-245-6155. 866-245-6155.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
News, analysis, commentary, and debate. This is the Wells Report. Greetings. My name is John David Wells. Our telephone number is 817-379-2172. That's 817-379-2172. Once again, all of us recoiling in horror at the shooting from Lewiston, Maine yesterday. We are working our way through all this here on the Wells Report, and thank you very much for joining us on this broadcast. By the way, on a programming note, there will be no broadcast tomorrow, so there will be no Fishing Shirt Friday. I've got Texas State Guard duty that's going to take Friday away from me, and I'll be back on Monday. Please pass that around to the friends that you have, and make sure that you understand that, as regrettable as this is, I know there have been some days off. I've had a lot of Texas State Guard stuff to do, and so consequently, I've got another one of those days. And we'll be doing that. But the good news is this is going to smooth out in the near future, and we'll have a nice long run of shows going into the holiday season. So, Israel and Hamas. We have lots of different things to tell you about today. And those things have to do with what has been going on with regards to an incursion last night into the Gaza Strip by Israeli armor. This armor unit went into what was called preparing the battlefield. We have some information for you on that. Let's give it to you right now. This coming to us, I believe, from CNN.
Learning that Israel conducted what it's calling a targeted raid in northern Gaza on Thursday.
The IDF released this footage of the operation showing tanks and armoured vehicles on the move before then pulling back into Israel. The IDF says the strike is part of preparations for the next stages of combat.
More, we're joined by Scott McLean. So presumably this was some sort of scouting mission ahead of an incursion?
Yeah, that's what they've said. This is the second time, from what I can tell, that they have done this. They say that they're trying to sort of clear the area to make conditions more favorable for them when and if they actually do go in with any kind of ground operation. Obviously, Prime Minister Netanyahu yesterday said in plain language what had already been heavily suggested, that a ground invasion is coming. Obviously, they won't say when or where or how or anything like that. But on Sunday, we actually saw one of these sort of smaller incursions on the ground where troops went in and then came back out. In this case, though, Hamas actually said that they fired at Israeli troops, they destroyed 2 bulldozers, and then the IDF later confirmed that one of them was actually killed, the first Israeli soldier killed in Gaza since the outset of this war. It's hard to tell from the video that they released of this more recent raid what precisely is going on there. Obviously, it's heavily edited, but at least they're saying that they went in and came out.
That is the very latest. That was, of course, from CNN International, who gave us that information. We sincerely appreciate that. The latest updates have to do with all kinds of things. This from an hour and 47 minutes ago, according to CNN. The Israeli shekel, that is their version of the dollar, has fallen to its lowest level in 11 years on speculation of a ground operation. The Israeli currency sunk to its lowest level against the U.S. dollar in 11 years on Thursday. This amid growing speculation that a ground operation by the Israeli Defense Forces into Gaza might be imminent. The shekel fell 0.44% to trade at 4.08 to the dollar by mid-afternoon local time. Last time the shekel traded that low was July 2012. Make that, yes, 2012. According to Refinitiv data, the value of the shekel has fallen by more than 6% since Hamas attacked Israel in this brutal assault that we've been talking about since October 7th. The shekel slid further today following news the IDF had conducted a targeted raid overnight in northern Gaza. This after Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said Wednesday that his forces were preparing for a ground offensive. The main the United Nations agency aiding Palestinians, said today their operations are being paralyzed in Gaza due to a lack of fuel, as Israel continues to insist supplies exist. But they also go forward to say that those supplies are being controlled by Hamas. Juliet Tuma, the communications director for the United Nations Relief and Works Agency, said the agency will be forced to halt operations altogether if fuel critical for generating power for hospitals, among other things, is not delivered by Thursday. Let's see, afternoon now in Israel and Gaza. Here's what you need to know. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said his country is readying for a ground incursion into Gaza as Israel's military conducted an overnight targeted raid using tanks. IDF forces, they told CNN that the raid was intended to create better terms for ground operations. A ground offensive is widely anticipated following the surprise Hamas attacks on Israeli settlements. The IDF, the Israeli army, conducted a targeted raid using tanks in northern Gaza before withdrawing, according to its military. Video published by the Israeli Defense Forces showed tanks and armored vehicles, including a bulldozer, moving on a road near a fence in northern Gaza. The tanks fired artillery. Some of the destruction could be seen nearby. Speaking to CNN, IDF spokesperson Peter Lerner said the raid, which he described as large but limited in scope, is intended to create better terms for ground operations if and when that decision is made. In a televised address yesterday evening, Prime Minister Netanyahu said Israel is raining down hellfire on Hamas. He also claimed Israel has already eliminated thousands of terrorists. This is only the beginning, he said. At the same time, we are preparing for a ground incursion, but the decision on when such an action would take place would be decided by the Israeli War Cabinet. Israel has been launching waves of retaliatory strikes following the Hamas attacks. Satellite images reveal the destruction of Gaza. The UN said it's soon going to run out of fuel, as reported already. The leaders of 27 European Union member states will meet in Brussels to discuss the unfolding crisis. Ahead of the summit, Joseph Borrell, the EU's foreign policy chief, indicated the bloc would push for a pause in fighting to allow for humanitarian aid into Gaza. The Israeli army, the IDF, now says that there are 24 hostages instead of the 224 hostages, instead of the 222 figure. It comes as talks to secure the release of a large number of hostages is being held by Hamas in Gaza. It's ongoing. The negotiations involve the United States, Israel, Qatar, Egypt, and Hamas. And as we reported earlier today, China is providing roughly $2 million in humanitarian aid to Gaza. This will be in the form of food, medical stores, etc. This is on top of the $1 million already donated by the People's Republic of China. And so that brings us up to date on the Israeli-Hamas situation from a news standpoint. We can tell you this. There is something else going on. There are reports from Israeli intelligence that indeed hundreds of Hamas fighters, doubtless many of them involved in this horrific raid on Israel on October 7th, were trained in Iran. This is something that was released by Israeli intelligence, and United States intelligence said they had no information on it at all. More about that in a moment. Israeli intelligence, on the other hand, said that indeed these Hamas forces had been trained in Iran for a very long time, that there could be Hamas members that were trained in September, as the reports go. If those fighters were indeed involved in this murder of Israeli citizens, that would be a serious provocation on the part of Iran toward Israel. Now, what will Israel do? I do not know. I don't know. All I can tell you is the United States is seeing an uptick in the number of attacks, both drones and rockets, on U.S. military installations. Secretary of State Antony Blinken, along with the President of the United States earlier today, have both confirmed that indeed attacks on the United States military installations around the Middle East by Iran would be treated in a way that would require a response from U.S. military capability. Now, what those responses might be, we have no idea. But and I'll bring this up to you right now. I have not had a chance to actually do the research on this. As you know, we're pretty picky about what we report here. There were reports that I got through non-media sources that there were explosions last night in Tehran, and let me give you the very latest on that. This is from I-24 News, okay, And so let me read this to you and give you this information for your use. Drones and missiles reportedly targeting U.S. forces in Iraq as tensions increase in the region. The Pentagon announces increased readiness. That is the precursor to this. Explosions occurred at the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps headquarters. This in central Tehran, according to Iran Afshar and IntelliTimes on Sunday. Also on Sunday, drones and missile attacks increased against U.S. forces that that did not, as far as we know, did not create any kind of damage. Drone and missile attacks increased against U.S. forces in Iraq, alongside Pentagon announcing it would bolster its military readiness. The drone came down inside the Ain al-Assad base, the western province of Anbar, without causing any casualties or damage, according to a military source speaking to Agence France-Presse. A second Iraqi security source was quoted as saying it was 2 suicide drones, first intercepted, the second one crashed because of a technical problem. Then, over the weekend, the same Ain al-Assad base was reportedly attacked by missiles, but the Pentagon said it could not confirm any such attacks. Now, once again, we don't understand why it is that the United States intelligence is having difficulty with these reports. It seems as though there are issues that are not being reported, and we don't know why. As a matter of fact, it seems it's either we don't know why or we know why, and we refuse to report it because of political considerations, which is what I consider this to be. I consider this as to why these people would be saying this. And what does that do? So if American intelligence is no longer based on fact, if American intelligence is based on politics, then we are headed down a very, very short road of destruction. We ran across this a long time ago. It was called cooking intelligence. In other words, instead of actually reporting what was in front of you, people would report or do intelligence, go out and send out human intelligence sources to bolster their understandings and their beliefs of what was happening already. In other words, they had a preconceived notion of what the intel would show them, and they became trapped in that preconceived notion to the point where they started distorting the intelligence facts available to them to report as their intelligence estimates. Disastrous. Now, if we're in a situation where United States intelligence does exactly know what's going on, and that's what I suspect, but will say in print that it does not know, there can only be 2 reasons. One, they're trying to protect their sources and methods, which could be possible, but that's probably pretty scant in my estimation. And once again, this is just an estimation, just an opinion. Or there is political control of information being released to the public, which wouldn't be the first time. This has happened a lot. But why would you have your intelligence services look like they're missing the boat? Again, this has happened several times now. And so why would you harm people's confidence in the intelligence community if it wasn't for political reasons? Once again, the Obama-Biden administration seems to be pretty much doing whatever they can to facilitate Iran, not just with a treaty that supposedly kept them from developing a nuclear weapon, something that would change the entire arc of conflict in the Middle East, but also seems to be willingly manipulated by the people involved in it. The JCPOA is what it used to be called. I don't know what it's called now. All I can tell you is the United States was out of it, and then it was back into it. And during this same time period between the Obama-Biden administration, there was a huge amount of cash, and I mean cash. I'm not talking about government transfers, just business banking transfers. I'm talking about pallets and pallets of cash, not American dollars. It was first turned into Swiss francs and a lot of other different currencies to be delivered to Iran. This happened years and years ago. But what we have here is we have a certain level of manipulation of information that is available outside the United States, but strangely not available inside the United States. And so what does this mean? It all comes down to this. There is a political component to what our intelligence services are doing. And that political component means that they'd rather look stupid than report something or have something caused to be reported that would perhaps run crosswise to the political narrative of the moment. That Iran's really not responsible for any of this stuff, which seems to be what the Biden administration wants to put out to us, when it's plainly not true. And so, once again, it's fascinating. I do not know exactly what we're going to see next. All I can say is that it's mighty weird out there, and we shall return coming up in just a couple of moments. This is the Wells Report.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right, for about $50 a month, you'll get lightning-fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back, but you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now.
Call 866-245-6155. That's 866-245-6155. Again, 866-245-6155. 866-245-6155.
This is the Wells Report. John David Wells, thanking you very much for joining us today. I sincerely appreciate your participation. Telephone number 817-999-4499, 817-999-4499. So what we are currently doing is we're trying to figure out just exactly what's happening in Tehran. There were some news about the explosions that may have occurred in Tehran last night. We are chasing that down. As I said, I was not especially happy about about being able to do more confirmation with that news, but I thought it was important enough to throw it out there for whatever it was worth. The report that I just said was this from I-24 News. That was a report from 4 days ago. And we're trying to figure this out. Once again, this came through non-news means, but it wouldn't surprise me at all if there were some serious issues that were occurring in Iran with regard to certain messages trying to be handed back and forth between the various participations in conflict of the people involved in what's happening currently in that particular area. And so Israel, Hamas, they are still at it. And let's see if we can find more information for you on this. Hold on. Stop. Thank you very much. Let's see if we can find some more information on this from our sources here. We're going to USA Today for their live updates. Let me keep rolling through some of this stuff. All right, so here's the very, very latest. These are live updates, courtesy of USA Today. Secretary of State President Biden says he believes one of the reasons for the Hamas attack was the progress we're making toward regional integration for Israel and regional integration overall. That is true. That seems to be the prevailing understanding about what this is happening. And it actually makes a lot of sense when you start thinking about the fact that both Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Qatar, a bunch of different countries were getting together to normalize relations with Israel. This was clearly going to throw a serious wrench in the planning of Iran for the region. Their proxy armies, Hezbollah and Hamas, thus were told to prepare, and indeed Hamas was probably ordered by Iran and the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps to move forward with this raid. There can't be much of anything else, and the people of Iran, Hamas, etc., the Palestinians in general, realize that if indeed these agreements are made between these longtime enemies of Israel, if suddenly that is the way it is, the Palestinian gravy train, based on terrorism and anti-Jewish bigotry and hatred, would go away. And it would stage a remarkable change in the status quo ante of what's going on in the Middle East. It would change everything. And it would leave the Palestinians out of the equation. And so this attack is certainly something that was, I believe, along with the Biden administration and other intelligence sources, say that this would be an excellent way of trying to forestall that agreement, if not overturn it, because the entire Arab street have always been focused on two things: anti-Jewish hatred, and B, the use of Palestinians as a way to justify their anti-Jewish moves in the region. But cooler heads seemingly are prevailing as people realize Israel's not going anywhere. The Jews are not going anywhere. In fact, what we are seeing is a worldwide change of heart, or at least a definition of people on either side of the Israeli-Jewish question. In other words, this particular action has exposed who are the anti-Jewish genocidal bigots in the world and has exposed their political moves toward Israel. And that includes the United States, by the way. Please keep in mind that President Obama and President Biden, not great friends of Israel. And so this kind of exposes this, but of course, because it's an election year, obviously the Biden administration is going straight down the line with support for Israel, and that's good. And that is a good thing. But what is the exact ideology involved in this? Well, I'm not going to start striking at people's motivation. I'm just going to say that there's a certain inconsistency with regard to how these folks have, there's a certain inconsistency of how these people have handled their interactions with both Israel and the region in general. And so we will have to see where that goes. So the Biden administration doing whatever they can, they believe now that this was all about trying to disrupt peace talks between the Arab world and Israel, and that seems to make an awful lot of sense to this reporter. This is the Wells Report. John David Wells, thanking you very much. Like I said, a programming note, this show will not be seen tomorrow. I've got Texas State Guard business. I'm going to go do Texas State Guard stuff. I may or may not share with what we're doing. It's nothing crazy, nothing weird. It has nothing to do with anything happening in the Middle East. I can share that with you. I can also share with you that nothing I say on this broadcast has anything to do with the Texas Military Department or the Texas State Guard. I am a Texas State Guardsman, proud of my service, worked really, really hard for a very, very long time. Got more of that work to do, but this doesn't have to do with the border, doesn't have to do with the Middle East. It just has to do with something else that is important. Like I said, I may share what we talked about. If somebody asks me about it, I probably will. Otherwise, that's that. The executive producer of the Wells Report is Dirk Steele. The publicist and associate producer is Jude Dankworth. I'm John David Wells. See you again on Monday for another edition of the Wells Report. All right, my friends. So, you may notice a different look on the broadcast today, and that has been a little strange. Because what I was seeing up to and including, yes, I did wreck Fishing Shirt Friday for you. Yeah, that's true. Anyway, what happened is that I was looking to see if Rumble was being on, and it is on right now. So I was trying to see if Rumble was being on, and that changed the entire look of my studio screen that I have here in the studio. And all my commercial sets disappeared, and a lot of things changed. So what I'm going to do here is a little experiment while I can watch what's happening on Rumble. I'm going to try to reset my page and see what that does. I'm wondering if that's a good idea. Let me think. Maybe not. Yeah, I think it's going to be okay. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go to this screen. Yeah, I know this is technical stuff, and I realize I probably should be doing this closed circuit, but I'm just going to do this as best I can. So I'm going to do a reset of my page right this minute, and we'll see what happens to the broadcast. And click. So they want me to, yes, I everything together. Good. Design. News. Good. That's good. Let's see. All right. So that seems to be there. That's there. Good. That's okay. And that's okay. Fine and dandy. Good deal. All's well. All right. Now let me see what I got here. All's well. All right. Well, that was weird. And I'm back. So I guess was I broadcasting the entire time? Yvonne, was I broadcasting the entire time? Or did my screen go blank? Was I there the whole time? Because like I said, my studio look was completely different. It was totally different than what I was. I could not see the chat room, and I was running the, let's see, A&M colors. Those are not A&M colors. That's the brilliant maroon that I have always used. Okay, so there, let's see. Let me see what we got here. Yeah, I don't know exactly what happened. No, we got a gray screen without me. Did we have, Yvonne, did you hear audio? Could you hear me talking with the gray screen? Could you see or hear anything? or did I just disappear? Technical's okay. It's the math we worry about. Did I make a math mistake again? Did I? That's annoying. All right, that's all I have. I just wanted to make sure that that this was all working and so on. Audio was there. Once you hit reset, I disappeared. No audio, just a banner with a gray screen. Okay, cool. All right, that's what I would figure. But it didn't seem to interrupt anything. Although well, maybe it did. It ended the stream. So, but then the stream is still going on. Okay, so there we go. Very weird. It was very, very strange. Okay, I got to go. I will see you on Monday. God bless. Wear your fishing shirt anyway. And until Monday, be very, very careful. Be safe. Make great decisions. I'll do the same thing. See you Monday.